Hello everybody and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. Today we are back in the craft shack, which is feeling super awesome. It's been a really cold winter and I'm so excited to get back into my little craft shed and do some crafts in here. So I had an idea for a video where I would do a couple of personalization things you can do to tarot decks to make them flow more easily into your life. First, I want to show you the ones that I have done, and then I'm going to share with you either how I did them or the next ideas that I plan to do. So let's start off with this one. So this is a tarot deck. This is one of my first tarot decks, and it's a pretty simple one. The decorations are really simple, but I like that they're on black. So this is a deck I really like, but the only problem was that the sides of these cards were originally white. Imagine that. You have a black back, a black front, and then the edge of the card is white. It drove me crazy. So once I looked online and figured out that I guess coloring the edges with a Sharpie is the solution from the internet, I did that, and it turned out so freaking good. I love that. But anyway, I also, since I like this deck so much, would like to change the tuck box for it to be a box like this, which is one that I've already made. So I found the inspiration for how to make this box from somebody on YouTube. I'll link their video down below. And it was fantastic. It's such a great suggestion of how to go about making a box like this. Because this is so sturdy, I feel like I can go anywhere and my cards will be safe. And this is just a traditional Rider-Waite deck. And you can see I used the original box, the tuck box, right here, to be able to kind of pay homage to the original packaging, because this was a package from the 70s. So, and then you can see here, did I glue that down? I did glue that down. I used the original blue, or I used some scrapbook paper that I tried to get to be as close to the original blue back as I could. Now, I don't really love this pattern on the back, but it's one of my first decks as well. So these are like my two first decks that I had. Anyway, so this is the style of box I would like to make with you guys later for this guy and for this guy. Now, speaking of this one, this is the Arthur Rackham Tarot, which is an artist I really love. I feel like some of the cards pair quite nicely with the original artwork. And some of them don't pair quite so nicely. Like I'm pretty sure that, yeah, that's the Fool. I feel like that's a pretty good one. An old man with his dogs kind of wandering around. But yeah, so some of them read well, some of them don't, but I still love the art style. And once you know the cards, you know, you're able to read it either way. But once again, we have a blue back on this and then kind of a yellowish front on here. So I think I want to color the edges of these. Probably this yellow color, because I feel like it would be less obtrusive to have a little bit of yellow bleeding into the front of the card than it would be to have blue bleeding into, let's find a brighter one. Yeah, some of these are kind of bright. Yeah, like these guys. Imagine having some blue bleeding into that white section. So I don't really want that. So I think I'm going to do a kind of off-white yellowish color. I'm going to find the Tombow that I want to do that with as well. Oh yes, and the last one. I just printed out this generic Rider-Waite tarot deck, I guess PDF, and I want to make my own little booklet of this that I can mark up and not feel guilty about. Because whenever I have a booklet that comes with a deck, I don't want to mess with it too much. So my plan here is to cut this. I have it printed just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So unfortunately it's not going to be double-sided, but I'm okay with that. And if it bugs me a whole bunch, I'll try to glue the pages together. But this is really, really thin paper, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem with making it too bulky or anything, but I'll show you how I do that. Let's actually start with this one, because I just printed this and I'm super stoked about this project, so we're starting there. Oh, also, before we get started, I wanted to notice the difference between these boxes. So this one, you can see the top fits over and there's like this part you can grab onto. And as much as I love that, because it's, you know, easy to grab and slide off, I do really like the ease and like clean lines of this one where there's just like the little pinch spots and then you pull that off. So I think I want to try to do it in this style because it's just like so clean and beautiful. So I'm going to try to do that, make my own with the little punch out holes. I'll figure out how to cut those out of the cardstock. But anyway, okay, to get started on this. So here my first step is going to be cutting all of the pages halfway. I love how consistent this is looking. Ah, yay. Okay, so we have this booklet all tidy and beautiful and in the right order. And now, so I'm not going to be doing a traditional binding on this book because there's just essentially one leaflet per signature, and that would be a lot of stitching for one page. And this is really thin paper to begin with. So I'm thinking that I might just clamp the sides and then glue this down with maybe a piece of muslin and see how well that can stay. So this is the gluey situation we're in this evening. I think I'm going to leave this to set and I'll see you tomorrow. So I just wanted to check on this and see how it's doing. Seems pretty sturdily glued together. I'm pretty happy so far. And I just used normal old Elmer's glue for this. Yeah, open to a random page and it stays open. Mission accomplished. So now it's time for me to make a cover for this thing. I'm essentially just going to use a piece of paper and glue the spine onto it. And I'm going to use a normal type of scrapbooking paper. So let me find some. Okay, I finally decided on some paper here. This is kind of boring and it's got horseshoes on the inside of it, but I do like this kind of faint pattern on the front. I feel like it won't be too obtrusive and I'll be able to do an actual design on the front of the book. So it's got a nice faint design. I think that should be good. So first things first, let's measure this. So we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4. And then we've got 5.5 as expected. And then here is the important measurements. Like almost exactly 1/4 inch. Perfect. So that means we should have 4 1/4 plus 4 1/4 plus 1/4. So that's 8 3/4. I'll go a little over 8 3/4 for that. So let's mark that out. So I got my cover all made, and I just made sure to measure the front, the back, and the spine and make it that wide. And then I measured the height and made it that tall. And then I made sure to score where the spine is going to be so that it can fit in there nicely. So it does. So I do need to snug it up there a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this like this, press it down really hard, and then clamp it and then leave it overnight again. So, and then tomorrow we'll be able to deal with the next step for that. Woohoo! Got that all clamped up and it's ready to dry overnight. I just realized too, I'm essentially making one of these where the cover is just glued to these signatures in there, and I didn't realize it. I love these field guides. They are sitting right in front of me here, so that might be a part of the inspiration for why I ended up just deciding on this style of binding. I just thought that was funny. Okay, now it's time for us to make the box to hold these little cards. I want to cover the outside of the box in this pattern, and then I want to use the existing box, which I'll go get in a second, to decorate the top of it. So let's get started on that. So to do this, I'm going to use a cereal box. I'm going to end up gluing 2 layers of it together. And instead of gluing glossy side to glossy side, I'm going to be gluing glossy side to matte side so that it sticks really well. Now while this is drying, I'm gonna go ahead and measure this deck and see how much ease I want to have in it. Or how much ease I want to have in the box, that is. So let's see here. Oop. I always start on the wrong side of this ruler. There we go. So it's about 2 3/4 by 3 1/4. So I'd say 3 inches by 3 1/2 inches would be about perfect. So let's write that down so we don't forget. 3 1/2. And that's just giving about 1/4 inch ease on each side. And I rounded up when I was giving you those estimations. So it's really more like in between 1/4 and 1/2 inch would be 3/8 inch clearance, which I don't know, I feel like that's a pretty good amount of wiggle room to get the deck out of the box. Now, so we're gonna need to have a shape that is roughly like so. We're gonna have each of these sides fold, and then we're gonna anchor these sides to each other. And how tall is the deck? The deck is about 1 inch tall, but I'm gonna give it 1 1/4 in case I wanna throw a booklet in there. Okay, and the height, this part, well, I'll zoom in so you can see all that. So this part's going to be 1 1/4 inches. Ooh, 1 1/4 inches tall. So I guess more accurately it would be so 1 1/4, 3 1/2, and 3. So really we'd have 3 plus 1 1/4 plus 1 1/4. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm also a substitute teacher, so I feel like I'm doing the area model right now. Oh yeah, I work with 4th and 5th graders a lot, so I'm just having flashbacks to work. But anyway, add those together. Let's see, we got 3, 4, 5, and 2/4. Simplify that into 5 1/2. Okay, so we're gonna have 5 1/2 by, add 1/4 or add 1 inch, so 5 1/2 by 6. So let's do that. Make a nice flat square of that size. Where'd my blade go? Where'd my blade go? Okay, we've cut this bad boy. Now it's our chance to score these lines so we can fold easily, so we can start securing the edges. This is almost like scoring pottery and then adding slip to glue it together. And now I need to choose the lining fabric for the inside of this box. So this is gonna be the outside of the bottom. I think I'm gonna use this as the inside of the bottom because it matches pretty well. It's pretty neutral, but it still has like a little bit of a sheen to it. Here, let me see if you can see that. So it's got a bit of sheen, and I think that'd be really cool peeking out from the inside. Okay, I think those have grabbed well enough anyway. Yeah. Yes, they have. Okay, so my theory for how I'm gonna glue this, first of all, let's test if our deck will fit in here well. Ah, perfect, look at that. That's perfect fit if you've ever seen one. Cool. I found this athletic tape in the dollar store in like the medical section, and it reminded me of bookbinding tape, so I'm just gonna use this. So already right there, you've got a box. Bam. Now it's time for us to make the top, which is essentially going to be a little bit larger due to the width of this box itself. So if our original measurements were 5.5 by 6 to make this, and then we took little 1¼ inch corners out, what I want to do now is turn it into, because this is about 1 millimeter, I guess I can just overestimate and add about 1/8 of an inch. So add 1/8 of an inch to the height. So if this is about 1¼ inches, this is a little less than 1¼ inches now due to the folding. So the ending measurements for this piece end up being 1¼ tall by 3 1/8 by 3 5/8, because it's 1/8 over a half. Then I'll be adding about 1/8 of an inch to each of these to allow for room for it to move. So we have 1 3/8 by 3 1/4 by 3 3/6. That's our end goal dimensions. So we're gonna be adding 1 3/8 for this section, 1 3/8 for this section, and then the 3 2/8, and then do the same thing on the side here. So that gives us 6, even, perfect. And we're gonna have so how many 8s do we have? We have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 8s. 7 3/8. So these are our dimensions, 6 by 7 3/8. Let's measure that out right here. I think we have a big enough section, so we should be good. Okay, so here's this piece all cut out. That's the 6 by 7 3/4. And we decided that our new little corners are gonna be a little bit bigger. So instead of 1 1/4, we decided it was gonna be 1 3/8. So let's mark those out. So it looks like my measurements are a little bit off here. I think we've got a little bit too much distance here, which is not a problem at all. We can just remove that and scooch it in a little bit. But what I'm gonna do to make sure that I know what the right size will be is to score these 3 sides and fold it up, or at least score this side, and then see exactly where I actually want it to be. So I'm essentially just checking to see how much clearance I do actually need, and this is fitting really perfectly on the outside. But I'm just gonna hold this here, scooch it over a teensy bit, inspect my clearance on both sides, make sure that I have the same clearance on the back that I have on the sides, and then I'll draw a line with that amount of clearance. Oops. There we go, so there's our new line. So now we just need to move this over that much for this section. Looks like we were exactly a ½ inch off there, so that'll be easy to mark. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Whew, after using a razor knife like this for so long, my hand's starting to get tired. Whew, my wrist and my index finger got a pretty big indent on that. I think it's even got some like industrial lubricants on there. Anyway, here we go, let's score him. Let's see how they all work together. Together forever. Do you guys like Twin Peaks? That's a song that James sings in like, oh, I don't know, season 2. After, yeah, I won't give you any spoilers, but anyway, I always think of that song. Let's see. We've got a lid. And the cool thing is, since there's a, you can hear, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but once we add all of our layers of assorted papers on the outside and on the inside, it'll be a nice, tight, snug little fit. So I'm quite stoked on that. Let's tape up the outside on this one, and then we can start decorating. Oh, the exciting part. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Let's test the fit again. Oh, love it. Yeah, once we add our little, oh yeah, I need to add my little cutouts because I made them the same height so that I can have my little cutouts on the side. Ooh. Didn't do that yet. So let's figure out what size we want, because the one that I'm inspired by has little, I guess, thumb-sized cutouts, but I think it might be good to do a slightly bigger cutout so you can maybe pull it up from like higher up so your whole hand doesn't have to hit the table to grab the little thing, so maybe like a little bit bigger. Let's let's find some weird template to use. That's what I generally do. Okay, so I'm decorating the bottom of the box with this beautiful wallpaper here. So let's see how much we're gonna need, because I do want it to fold in a little bit on the inside. That should be sufficient. So what I'll do, I think I'm just gonna use glue stick to anchor this down to begin with. Ooh, let's score it up again. Yeah. Texture. The nice thing about wallpaper is that it won't absorb as much because it's not quite as papery, I guess. Let's make sure I lined that about right. I think what I'll do is I'll glue these flaps in first and then put these sides up, and I'm gonna make these longer sides flush. Okay, and I'm making sure that I fold these over as well. Yeah, I can't count how many times these binder clips have helped me with projects like this, just making sure everything stays straight while it's drying. An invaluable resource. Check out how clean those corners are. So this was the first layer you folded up, and then this is the final layer. And that little bit of overlap beforehand allows for this to be a really clean corner right there. Ah, love it. Okay, now while this bad boy dries, my next question is what pattern do I want to have on the top of this one? So I love that this is like a floral, and I do really like the sun of these cards. That's a tough one. I think something more neutral and blackish would be good, so actually maybe this would be good for the top. So I figured out that I can use this wallpaper on the inside of this box, and then I can use this piece on the outside of this box, which is gonna be the lid, because I think if I strategically place it, I will actually be able to get the right amount of space out of it. So let's try that. Okay, so we've got a little bit of bird, but this is in the corner, so I think he might actually get cut off, so we'll have to see. Ooh, really pushing the limit of our fold over on this one. That's okay. Oh, we're gonna have to cut our little loops out anyway. That should be fine. Now that this one's drying, what we can focus on is gluing the pattern to the inside of this box. So I just glue this one piece of paper in. It's just one length of it, so it can go on this side, the bottom, and this side, and I pushed it down with glue. And now I'm going to trim it by marking here and then trimming slightly below that line. I already glued this one, so that was my bad there. It is better to cut these before you glue it. Yay! Now I just need to cut the two little side panels here to clean everything up. Okay, so I'm going to cut them a little longer than they need to be. And then I'll probably cut them to be about the right height, maybe a teensy bit shorter. That looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and glue that side. And actually, maybe I'll use him as a template to cut the other one. Now it's hard to capture this on camera, but I made sure that it overflowed on the top a little bit and on each side. That's just because I have trouble working in these boxes. I'm sure there's a better way to line them, but see, even with this, I'm getting glue everywhere. But at least this way, all of the cardboard itself is covered, and I'm able to actually work within the shape that I have. Because, I don't know, I feel like it's pretty hard to get this stuff in there. Such a tight little space in there. The back of this paintbrush is a really great tool for keeping everything nice and tight. Okay, bottom of the box done. Now we need to repeat that whole process on the top. Bam, so there we go. We've got the top and the bottom. They slide together super nicely. The one problem I had with this top portion is that one of the sides I cut too skinny. So you can see here I had to use the lining to come over the top of the cardboard, and there's just like a little seam here, but that doesn't bug me because the lining matches pretty well too, so not too big of a deal. So now for the decoration. So this is the top. This is the one we're going to be decorating. And again, this is the back of our cards. So it kind of matched this pattern. And this is the box it came in. So I don't want to destroy this very cute box. It's the Tarot Nova because it fits perfectly into this little slide out box. So instead of cutting this apart, what I've done is I unfolded it and printed it so that I could cut these up and glue them on instead. So I'm just going to cut this apart and experiment. So I was originally thinking that I would just cut the front of the box off and see if I like it on the top. So let's try that first. So now I do like how this looks, but I also think it would look really cool if the teal wasn't there and I just glued this and kind of blended into the background. So I think what I'm going to do is just cut that teal off. I might save these little corners and glue them on the corners though, because the corners are also on every card. So this is like kind of a feature of the deck. So it'd be fun to put those on the corners. Yeah, I think that's going to be awesome, having those little corners and having that in the center. Perfect. I'm excited that I did that. Okay, so let's glue those on. Because I just printed this with my printer, it's not the most saturated color, and I'm okay with that, but I do think it would be nice if I had like a gloss coat to put over this so it looked a little less printed and matte. So maybe if I find some Mod Podge that isn't all coagulated and dried out. My Mod Podge dried out recently, so. Anyway, if I find some, maybe I can put that on the top to give it a more glossy luster, make it look a little bit more official. The Tarot Nova. I really like how that looks. Do you see how like a glossy luster on this would make it really stand out? Because it's kind of matte compared to the wallpaper behind it. So now, I was wondering if I wanted to do the same thing with the corners of the boxes, like on this side, but I only have a couple of these printed, so that would be, let's see. So of these corners, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, maybe I'll just do these corners then. Let's try it. So when I'm doing a craft like this and I have leftovers, like I think I'll have some of these pieces left over. Generally what I'll do is I'll come up with some type of collage in my book of shadows, or my book of reflection as I call it. And I'll talk a little bit about the process that I did and how I felt about it. And yeah, so that's a cool way to use up your other magical intentional items if you have some leftovers, is just glue them on in that magical book. While those are drying, I'm going to color in these corners because there's a little bit of some light color there. I might even add a layer of black to these to make them a little more defined. Let's try that. Believe it or not, this dried out marker is actually working perfectly to match like the grayish black from the printer ink. Well, maybe I'll just leave it like that then. That turned out better than I expected. Cool, they're all matching. So that's what the corners are looking like. Okay, the next step, we gotta cut our little pulley-outy holes for these bad boys, so let's do that. I can see an indentation forming on the inside, so I'm going to start cutting from the inside so I can have clean incisions on both sides. Not too shabby. There's a couple of little cardboard like burrs on there, but I think if I use my Dremel or even just a little bit of sandpaper, it would really clean it up nice. And then I'm not going to cover this, I'm just going to leave it because that's how my other box was. You can see they did a similar thing here where you can still see the cardboard there. So, not too bad. And there we have our tarot box. Cut out 1, cut out 2. Ta-da! The little wiggle room to spare. Can see if I wanted to make a little booklet for this particular deck, because the booklet that comes with it is really large. If I wanted to print one to keep in the box, I could probably do that. And bam, there's our box. And there we have it, our 3 beautiful crafts. So my finished thoughts thinking about this is I'm most proud of this project here. I absolutely love how the box turned out, and I don't have many gripes about it. The one thing I think I would do is perhaps I would have chosen a different piece of this wallpaper so there's more pattern on the bottom and like on the sides, because there's a couple of dead spots, just to make it a little bit more active. But other than that, I'm really happy with this one. So for the book, I like this one. I do not, however, like how the pages are, every other page it's empty. So I am going to go through with a glue stick and just tack these down so that it's easier to go through. Also, the reason I made this is something I didn't do yet. I don't know how I want to do this, but I wanted to differentiate between the different suits. So I think what I'll end up doing is put little tabs on the side that say wands, swords, you know, pentacles, etc. So that I can easily flip through. And so I'll glue those pages down. I might leave a couple of them not glued together in the back just for notes and stuff, but yeah, I think I'm gonna make little tabs for the side to make it more easily referenceable. And I might put a little book plate on the front or something like that, but I kind of like it simple like this because I know what it is and not everybody needs to know that. And then as far as the coloring of the sides of these cards are concerned, I love it. I absolutely love how these turned out. I think that they're a really good color to pair with the front. And this is going to make it a lot easier for me to use them because I won't be seeing that stark contrast, and it seems like it blends in a little bit better. And I'm really happy with how the yellow pairs well with kind of the green tones in the front of this blue back of the card. All in all, I'm super happy with these 3 tarot crafts. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed getting a peek into my tarot practice and how I like to tweak it so that it works for me. If you guys do some of these witchcrafts, I would love for you to tag me on Instagram. I'm at Elderberry Sprout because I want to see what you creative folks come up with. So thank you so much for watching and have a magical day. Bye.